Thank you. As a good Jewish boy, I'm a little daunted to be in church on Saturday. So I'll say Shabbat Shalom. I imagine many of you last night were at Krista Tippett's wonderful talk. I was, and I learned a lot there, and I was especially taken with the concept of spiritual genius, even though this may be the opposite. But thanks to Randy and to Gladdening Light, it's a great honor to be here. And when Randy first got in touch with me about coming here and explained what it was, what the symposium was, what its focus was, what the themes were, I was honored and humbled and speechless, and worried that I would indeed be speechless, because the spiritual lens, which is a wonderful phrase, is not always, is indeed rarely the one that I find myself or imagine myself to be looking through. Partly because I work at a daily newspaper, which is a deeply, aggressively, sometimes pathologically secular environment, where the newsroom is a wonderful place. It's full of courage and passion and resilience. It is not generally a place of contemplation, peace and quiet, serenity, all of those things that we associate with spirituality. And indeed, sometimes, and I think Krista alluded to this last night, it sometimes seems as if our job in putting out a daily newspaper is to ruin everybody's day before they've even had their breakfast. And it may be that within that, the job of the people who write in the arts section, the critics and cultural reporters, is to offer just a little scrap of comfort, something that might, it might not all be so bad. The world may be collapsing around us, but there's this movie that just opened. That might be fun. The other challenge of the topic, I find, is the movies themselves, which are, for me, and I think for many of us, very powerfully associated with secular modernity. With the new, with the now, with technology, and also with escapism and entertainment. And with a form of attention that may take us away from loftier or graver or more profound matters. And if you think about sort of what we think of the movies as doing, they either are sort of promoting a world or creating a world of fantasy and escape, or focusing our attention on the real, the actual, the literal, the material, the world as it is. And my own approach to film tends to be skeptical and rooted in kind of materialism and a judgment that isn't always taking account of what we might call the spiritual aspects of the medium. So I found myself, as I was preparing this to come and speak to you here, reflecting on what the spiritual lens of film might be, what it is that movies might show us, or invite us to think about that might count as spiritual. And there are some, I think, obvious answers in a way. There are certainly, there's a large part of the current film marketplace that's devoted to explicitly religious movies. Most of them Christian, and most of them defined by a very specific set of religious ideas and themes and a kind of religious content. But then there's also, beyond that, a kind of a habit of allegorically interpreting movies that may not be explicitly religious, but that nonetheless seem to have some kind of spiritual dimension. So we can think about, The Last Jedi as a movie about spiritual discipline, about the discovery of a vocation, about a cosmic battle between good and evil, about a struggle to define and to defend universal values. And we can see in a lot of popular entertainment, sort of inklings or gleanings of ideas that we might associate with the traditions of wisdom and spirituality and religion. There's also, I would say, a tendency in other kinds of movies to focus on what we think of as narratives of redemption. I would say that word is used in Hollywood and at the Sundance Film Festival maybe more than in buildings like this. It tends to be a somewhat facile idea, but it's always kind of there, that the arc of a given character that we're looking at in a movie is toward redemption. Whether that, how seriously we should take those stories is another matter, and maybe one that we can talk about when we talk about the Oscars, which I have a feeling we will.